April 2020's free PlayStation Plus games are Uncharted 4 and Dirt Rally 2.0. Are either of these games the right fit for you to plus one to your collection? Let's find out today, and let's start with Uncharted. First things first, if you haven't played an Uncharted game before, do not start with this one. Hopefully you redeemed the Nathan Drake collection when it was free back in January, but if not, just toss down that $20 and enjoy the first 3 games before coming back. I promise it'll be worth it. Plus, it's not like you have The Last of Us 2 to look forward to soon anymore, so Naughty Dog's other series will just have to do for now. Subtitled A Thief's End, Uncharted 4 marks the final chapter in Nathan Drake's saga, putting you in the treasure hunter's boots for one final international scavenger hunt. I probably don't have to say this considering it's Naughty Dog, but A Thief's End is magnificent. Somehow the team drafted together a just about perfect conclusion to the main Uncharted series. Uncharted 4 combines the over-the-top cinematic action that we've come to know and love from this series with a more muted, less supernatural story, while also incorporating improved visuals and character animation and new stealth and combat elements based on The Last of Us. And it also inherits the delays from The Last of Us. Seriously, this game was pushed back like 3 times over the years, but that's neither here nor there because Uncharted 4 was worth the wait. This game ends up, if not as the best in the franchise, a very, very close second. I'll spare you too much of the story details, but the short of this game's plot is that it turns out Nate has a brother that we've never heard of before now, Sam Drake. Sam is kind of stuck in a pinch and needs a lot of money, so our hero comes out of his boring retirement to search for centuries-old pirate treasure to help his brother. From there, you can expect your usual levels of Uncharted twists, turns, leaps, and the series' trademark witty one-liners, but underneath all of that is a very different tone, bringing a much more human side to our cast that we really didn't see as much of in the PS3 trilogy. Uncharted 4 takes the time to breathe, clocking in at almost 4 hours longer than the previous games, and although it's more down-to-earth, that almost helps it stand out more than those games too. This game doesn't have an insane train section like 2, or the even more insane airplane section from 3. Instead, many of the set pieces are smaller in scale, more personal, almost as a way to remind you that, yeah, Drake's a human. He's a human with unimaginable finger strength, but still, he's a human, and these events really could kill him. Despite that lower level of scale, these set pieces stand out as some of the best in the series, with one chapter in particular possibly being the perfect vertical slice of everything Uncharted stands for. Paired with that are the new gameplay mechanics, namely a more open approach to level design, where you can often choose between stealthily picking apart groups of foes or going in guns blazing as usual. After Uncharted 3 attempted to play with stealth, poorly, this was a very welcome addition. Uncharted's gunplay was often a means to an end in the past, but 4 at least gave you the means to play with that means however you wished. Personally, I always love going for the stealthy approach whenever possible, at least to even the odds a bit before taking down the rest with the game's improved shooting controls. Plus, Uncharted 4 improved upon The Last of Us's Uncharted 3 inspired stealth, allowing for multiple, easily distinguishable states of enemy alertness instead of the usual 2, "Duh," and "Oh my god, that bush just moved, shoot him!" That's not to say that the AI is, very good all the time, but hey, this game was only in development for half a decade by the best development team in the world, let's give them a break. Perhaps the biggest improvement in A Thief's End is in its pacing. Despite the game running closer to 12 to 15 hours instead of the usual Uncharted's 8-ish hours, it never runs, in my opinion, into the usual pitfalls that the PS3 games did, where they would throw way too many bullet sponge enemies at you to kill some time, or an overly long puzzle section, or too many walk slowly while the game talks to you sections. Not every section is as thrilling as what I'm showing you, but every down moment has you wondering which thief that subtitle refers to. And it has you worrying that, shoot, they might kill off one of the most iconic PlayStation mascots ever. Now, of course, the game is not infallible. I've still got some issues. For one, I don't like Sam Drake as a character. I think he's poorly placed into the story, I think he's poorly played within the story, and I think that he exists solely as a reason to give Troy Baker another paycheck while cashing in on Nathan Drake's ambiguous past. Don't get me wrong, Troy Baker does a good job of trying to bring the character off of the page, but I just don't care. Plus, it's really weird that the moment we find out about Sam is also the moment that these world-class master thieves remember the concept of a grappling hook. This grappling hook is a new core mechanic in Uncharted 4, and it's just hilarious to look back at all the times in 1 through 3 that Drake and the crew could have really used one of these, but just didn't think to pack it in their bags. Magical blue resin crystals? Yeah, toss those in the bag. What? Rope? What the hell is that? So before I either gush or nitpick even more about Uncharted 4, if it wasn't already clear, let me spell it out. +1 this game to your collection. It's one of the best games on the PS4. It's one of the best looking games out there, full stop. It's either the best or second best Uncharted game next to 2, and it's in the conversation as one of the best games made for any system for that matter. Even if you didn't love the PS3 games, I still think that you should give 4 a shot, because 4 very much aims to be a different take on that same style, and it carves out a path for itself after I was confident that the series really couldn't do much more after 3 jumped the shark. Oh, and also there's multiplayer. Yeah, I guess that exists if you want it. I don't want it. I should warn you though, the game's got a big file size, clocking in at just over 63 gigs. Remember like 4 years ago when 63 gigs was a lot? God, those were the days. And speaking of, Dirt Rally 2.0, our next game, clocks in at almost 80 gigs. I'm not sure why, because this game doesn't look all that great, especially compared to Uncharted 4, but really in general. Like, the cars look fantastic, the lighting and the weather effects are top-notch, but the actual terrain? Nah. For a racing sim like this, I don't know. I expect more after Forza and Gran Turismo have continually raised the bar visually. Now that said, this 2019 game is like the rest of the Dirt series, made by veteran racing developer Codemasters, so you know it's going to feature some of the most fine-tuned mechanics out there. And this is where I say that I'm not huge into racing sims. If this were a more arcade-styled racing game, I would be all over it and I'd have a far better opinion to give, but I tried again and again to get used to this game's controls and I just can't. Dirt Rally 2.0 is not a beginner-friendly game whatsoever, and I'll outright say that probably 5% of you watching this at best will enjoy the game. Those of you that'll like it, well, you probably already own it, but if not, you're in for a treat. I could immediately tell that the game has leagues of depth that may as well be rocket science for me right now. For what it's worth though, I really appreciated the history-focused game mode, which takes you through the timeline of rally car racing dating back about half a century. It's a touch that I can't recall seeing in any recent racing game, let alone a sim, and driving on these winding dirt tracks in classic cars with a co-driver giving you upcoming turns and terrain advisories, that's just awesome. I'm pretty sure I killed that co-driver like 6 or 7 times though, oops. Even the loading screens have some level of depth to them, giving you a heads up on the weather, time of day, track length, and even the total elevation shift from start to finish. Considering you'll be loading for probably 30 to 60 seconds for each race, I very much appreciate at least trying to use that time for some purpose. That's something this game very much fails to do when it comes to its online integration, because I swear to God, I was stuck for 1 to 2 minutes minimum each time I tried to do anything in the career mode. All I could do was just sit there staring at a blurry screen and just waiting for the game to connect to the server and transmit leaderboard data that I don't even care to see. I'm hoping that's just a server stress thing, given that most of us are all home right now, but I'm not exaggerating when I say that Dirt Rally made me wait for more time than I actually played. I know I said a moment ago that I'm not a huge sim fan, and naturally, like almost all of you, I'm using a DualShock for this game and not some expensive racing wheel rig that the game is likely designed for. However, I've gotta say that many of my struggles really didn't feel like they were my own inexperience as much as this game's strangely weak throttling. For the last few races before I put the game down, I focused much of my attention on holding R2 in as metered a way as possible to try and give myself slow and controlled bursts of acceleration. I tested this on what's essentially a brand new controller, one of my backups that sat mostly unused since it came with my upgraded PS4. And I swear the throttle jumps at about a half press from barely functioning at all to slamming on the gas. For a simulation game, this just felt wrong, and I really hope I missed a setting that allows me to fine-tune it, but for the default controls, that's awful. It just makes a game with an already steep learning curve even less intuitive for new players. Now again, for any of you that are experts, you don't have to furiously type that I'm garbage at this game and that I deserve to die, although the thought is nice and I truly do appreciate it. Instead, I'd rather that you shared tips in the comments to make it easier for prospective players to sink themselves into this game more, instead of just putting it down after 30 minutes or never downloading it at all. After all, this video isn't aimed at Dirt Rally experts, it's aimed at the 40 million PS Plus subscribers that are just looking at this as a free game, many of whom are likely less experienced with the genre than even me. I'd rather the most people possible enjoy this game, especially since we've all got time to sink into learning something like Dirt Rally right about now. So for probably the first time in over 100 PLUSone episodes, I'm going to withhold a recommendation for a PS Plus game. Should you PLUSone Dirt Rally 2.0? I can't say. That depends on your own tastes, and it depends on if you feel that any of the tips that others have left in the comments potentially would help you out. Obviously, the game's free, so either way redeem it, but I don't know that I can suggest that you spend the time to download 80 gigs of game just to be as disappointed as I am with the result. And with that said, thank you very much for watching, I really appreciate it. If I've helped you make a decision on either of these games, or if I've entertained you or brightened your day in any way, I'd also appreciate if you checked out another video. In fact, now that every game in 2020's been delayed, why not check out my video on the best games that you probably missed from last year? It's going to be a long few months after we're all done with Final Fantasy VII, and some of these games will hopefully help pass that time. But anyway, once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, stay golden.